Previously on DSA. I got cold, got lost in the marketplace, met a couple of kiwis, put some strawberry syrup for fuel, rode through some Peruvian highways, camped in someone's farm, paid a visit to a brewery, more adorable cats, rode over some gnarly roads, and a long hike to one of the 7 wonders of the world. Then we saw some trains chugging through town, and just like that, we were in Cusco. When in Cusco, I gave my bike a clean wash that it deserved and a long overdue since Colombia. Paid a visit to a chocolate museum, as my friend held the camera filming, we can see how my face is beaming with joy at the sight of fresh and rich chocolate. I still think chocolate is mankind's best invention. With my chocolate craving satisfied, we took our bikes out of this safe parking location, which was inside the hostel we stayed in, and quite literally rolled out of Cusco.
Gracias.
As we rode out of the city, Peru was celebrating something, not quite sure what it was, but it was grand and it was loud. But it caused traffic delays and slowed our progress. Bad roads did not help with the delays either. But Greg, on the other hand, tackled these roads like a champ. To add to our woes, Peru was in a bit of a turmoil. There were a lot of protests and roadblocks south of Cusco, but they were pretty friendly to us bikers. Thanks to increasing demand in EV batteries globally, the government of Peru wanted to set up a mining corridor through the Andes in southern Peru. The locals obviously did not want their holy, ancient and fertile land dug up and were protesting against the government. Their way of protest was to block main truck routes, which they thought would cripple the supply chain of the country, which in turn would get the government's attention. Fortunately for us, neither did we cripple any supply chain, nor did we get any government's attention. We used this logic as a ticket to negotiate our way out of this mess. In some cases, the locals were friendly and they were happy to let us through, and even wished us luck on our journey.
Ciao. Ciao. Gracias. Ciao.
In some other roadblocks, it wasn't as easy. We had to ride around them, off-road. To make matters worse, we had to deal with rain, cold, crosswinds, high altitude, and terrain which is basically mud and sludge. These terrible conditions got Justin stuck while Greg powered his way through. I did not stop for Justin, as I didn't want 2 bikes stuck instead of 1. chugged ahead, found a hard patch of ground to stop at, and ran back to help Justin. Justin by then had broken free from this muddy grit and crawled his way out of here. I ran back to my bike. Running was a bad idea given that we were 5,000 meters above sea level. Got back on my motorcycle and hopped my way out of there. Greg and Justin were at the top waiting and guided me out of the sludge. Fist bumps all over, and it was time to get the fuck out of here. We left this rather mess of a roadblock behind, and eventually both the roads and the weather got better. The road snakes up on the high Andean summit with mesmerizing views all around. With less traffic too, thanks to all the roadblocks that were littered around the region. When I say high up in the Andes, I mean it. I can't believe the locals casually had an outdoor gift shop at 4,444 meters above sea level. For those who understand in feet, that is 14,500 feet, and it's just another road in the Andean Peru. Anyway, we had one last place in Peru before we jumped over to the next country. It was the floating islands on Lake Titicaca. So we found an accommodation for the night which had a kitchen, and Justin happily agreed to cook for us, provided we chopped vegetables and did the dishes. Fair trade if you ask me. So I went on to obey my end of the deal and started chopping vegetables. Justin did the cooking. While water for pasta was boiling, Justin taught us a card game called Cambio, which literally means exchange in Spanish. Pretty fun game actually, you guys should try it. Shortly after, we sat down, ate our dinner, and just thought about how beautiful Peru was. The barren coastline, the dry mountains, snow-capped peaks, dense jungle, Machu Picchu, road blockade, I mean, you name it, Peru had it all. And now we were headed towards a high-altitude lake and floating islands of Uros. So we did the dishes, went to bed, which was probably my last night of accommodation in Peru. The following morning, we met Jordi and his wife Diana, who took us on their boat to give a tour of the Uros floating island. What a beautiful day to be exploring this place. Let me start with a bit of history. The Uro are the indigenous people who fled from the Incas to avoid slavery. They took shelter on a bunch of man-made floating islands, which we see today as the floating islands in Lake Titicaca. If you learn anything from history, it never ends well for the locals. So was the case here. The Incas eventually enslaved the Uros. But enough with the history. Today, this place embraces modern technology. Sort of. TVs to solar chargers. Let me show you what I mean. But first of all, let me tell you how the island is built. Jordi took us on his boat to the island him and his family lived on. Gave us a little tour of his island. Not entirely sure of what this place was, but seems like a good place to hide from responsibilities. He showed us their living quarters, a cute little hut. While in the hut, I learned that Peru was big on Bollywood.
Critic Russian and Shah Rukh Khan. I have one TV and watch in TV this movie and song. Singing, and some person or children here is singing the song of the
Singing Bollywood?
Yeah, in the song of the Shah Rukh or Critic Russian. It's very famous.
Anyway, he already explained how his island is called Suma Marca, which apparently translates to beautiful city in the native Uro language. He also went on to explain how the islands are built.
Where do you get this?
Only here, like 1 meter, 1 kilometer. Yeah. Go to far away for the cut.
Okay, cut and get it.
The best part about this is that the roots are alive and continue to grow with people living on it.
Normally 20 centimeters upstairs like this.
Yeah.
Like this, and this small piece is grow again.
Again?
Yes. This
beautiful.
So now disappear the plant.
Just keeps coming back. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
You can, and this plant is for everything.
Sustainable life.
For the cooking, for the eat, and this flower is.
The locals travel a kilometer into the lake and collect a bunch of grass straws. Once they bring back boatloads of straws, they start stacking them on top of each other. Layers and layers of them. They stick a sharp peg to hold the layers and bind them together with ropes. And that's it. Platform for the floating island is born. The platform can be anywhere between 3 to 30 meters deep. And over this platform is where the Uro people live out their lives, build shelters, have families, and make kids. If I'm honest, it is a bit tricky to walk around on a bouncy platform, let alone live on it. Lucky for us, we were on one of those days where they're stacking more layers. It is a lot of work to keep this going. The Uro people have adapted to this lifestyle. So well, in fact, that they grew their own crops on the island. They had their own soccer field, their own community center with a watchtower. Here's a little panorama of this fascinating place. They even had their own floating island public school. But of course, school's out for summer and the classrooms were empty. But it was pretty cool to be there. They let us try their hand-woven local attire, which was very bright and flashy, I must admit. The Uro people refer to this yellow twin canoe looking thing as their Mercedes-Benz. They even took us for a ride on their Mercedes.
Going on a ride on the Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah.
It's probably more reliable than the original Mercedes-Benz. Yeah. So you said this lasts for 2 years? 2 años? It's more than any Mercedes-Benz without maintenance.
The inside of this Mercedes use plastic bottles.
Yordi also told us that they use recycled plastic bottles to keep the raft afloat. Anyway, that was it on the floating islands of Lake Titicaca. What an amazing place this turned out to be. And Yordi and his family were so kind, courteous, and down to earth. It really goes to say how happy these people live with almost nothing. I'll never ever complain about problems in my life.
Hola. ¿Cómo te llamas? Lida. Lida. Me llamo Suhas. Mucho gusto. Mucho gusto. Cámara. Hola, cámara. Photo.
Hola, dile hola.
Son mis sobrinos.
¿Sabrina? Ah, sí, sí, sí.
Hola.
Hola.
Yeah, 2 años.
2 años.
Estoy poco más de 6 años.
2, 6,
9.
9 años. Ah, bien.
¿De dónde nos visitas?
Ah, India. Hindú, sí, India. Nueva Zelanda. Gracias, gracias. Perú muy hermosa. Hola.
These kids didn't speak much to me. Not sure they were shy or completely shocked to hear my bad Spanish. Anyway, we left Uros in our rearview mirror. It also seemed like we left a bit of a storm in the rearview mirror. With this, we are also leaving Peru behind. What an amazing country Peru had been. Highs and lows, quite literally, from the low coastline to the high Andes. But now, it was time to enter the next country, Bolivia. Catch me next time on Dual Spirit Adventures.